when the pandemic hit us, we had issues with testing first, because we were not, we did not have sufficient, um, um, the network of the labs around the country. Though there are many, but the assays in particular that are required, the test assays that are required in particular for testing a particular virus, which in this case happened to be the SARS-CoV-2 virus, was not there initially, which again was a global problem. And then parallelly came the admissions in the hospitals for those of them who were severely infected because of the transmission rates. The wave, I mean, the first wave caught us all off guard. I mean, I don't think anybody was prepared for it. Even the large countries like the United States and the Western world had called out for help. They needed antivirals and all kinds of other medications, which India again has been on the forefront, because we have a huge bandwidth of pharmaceutical manufacturing organizations, and we had the bandwidth to manufacture antivirals for a very, very long time. When we started doing the vaccine development, our only resource was vaccine manufacturing, because we again have a large foothold in this country where we are absolutely 100% self-sufficient when it comes to vaccine manufacturing. All our vaccines in the international immunization, in the universal immunization program, are manufactured by Indian manufacturers. So the large volumes in terms of a normal birth cohort of the country is manageable. Say 100, 200 million doses of vaccines, of every vaccine, has been done in the past, and it continues to be done. But when the pandemic hit us, it was just mind blowing, because the entire population has to be addressed. So that is where then the issues start. The real challenges come is when we have to scale up to the numbers that we have to play, and we have to be ready to vaccinate. So we've reached out to the NIV, the National Institute of Virology, to the ICMR primarily, and then asked for these virus strains, because at that point of India, we did not have R&D labs in our country who had at least started doing some work or had some background information on the virus itself. So we reached out and we got the strains from NIV Pune, and then our work started rolling out. We brought the actual strains of the SARS-CoV-2 virus into our facilities live and kicking, of course, and our bioprocess engineers and technologists who deal with all these areas of bioprocesses then started working with it, and multiplied it, inactivated it, and then formulated the vaccine in probably less than 45 days. But after which then came the enormous task of proving that this proof of concept will work efficiently, effectively, and safely. I think that is the most important point. In normal scenarios, I can talk about, we look at vaccines for 10, 15, and 20 years. Sometimes we don't have an end product or an end result coming out of the tunnel. But in this case, during the pandemic, in spite of the challenges that we had and the COVID restrictions, all the other issues, the social factors, the fears, the public health protocols that we had to also be very cognizant of in ensuring that safety of our own employees was also extremely important, because they were all working. All of us were working, in fact. And that is how I think we collaborated. We partnered with medical institutions, with R&D laboratories, with hospitals, and with doctors and the medical fraternity, in order to ensure that that our vaccine would be proven and would be a very strong candidate, potential candidate for being introduced for immunizing our own population in India and elsewhere if required. I would say, in terms of the way our public distribution mechanism in this country works, the government system works through distribution to the states. The states send it to their district hospitals. The district hospitals, from there on, would send it to the small rural primary health centers, or the mandal at the taluk or the mandal level depots that they have. So these vaccines, our own vaccines in the past, I mean the country's vaccines, not our companies, are all stored anywhere between minus 20 degrees, for example, which is the polio vaccine and the rotavirus vaccine. And then we have also we have a range which brings us to 2 to 8 degrees. So we have a bandwidth of vaccines which we have been continuously manufacturing, supplying, and distributing. So when it comes to distribution, the public system is only through the public hospitals and the public chain of distribution. Whereas, and then we also have the other segment, which is not as big as the public one. This is the private market, where we have private hospitals and private clinics and doctors who procure, mostly pediatricians and general physicians, who then procure most of these vaccines depending on their practice and their area of expertise, procure them directly from the distributors that we have in the private market as well. There are absolutely pockets where it is very difficult. The ASHA worker or the last mile public health worker is the only person who is going to be able to carry a vaccine on horseback or camelback or on their own backs, on cycles, and many other modes of drones were deployed. We need to look at funding ourselves, increase funding, increase partnerships among ourselves if we can, if we have the expertise, look at similarities and complementing each other in terms of how our expertise and the other organizations' expertise can come hand in hand. I think that was also tried out during the pandemic. There were companies whom even we have worked with. We collaborated with other vaccine players who could give us some aspect of the process so that we could cut time, we could reduce time in manufacturing. So we have done that. We need to collaborate more with R&D institutions, and I think our own R&D institutions in the country also have to come halfway to the onto the table, and both of us sit together and do this in jointly in public private partnerships, which was also demonstrated by us about 5-7 years ago in the rotavirus vaccine development. The best way going forward would be public private partnership. I think that will solve a majority of the challenges that we face in the industry today.